Hey, it's me again, B with sunglasses. Today I wanted to talk about a very important aspect of fighting concerning support characters, game sense. This is going to be the first part of a three-part series where I talk about support, ranged, and melee fighters, and focus on a specific aspect of that class. Let's start with the basics. What is game sense? I can simply define it as one's ability to evaluate the situation of a round and sort priorities using this evaluation. Now, I will mention that game sense applies to not just support fighters, but ranged and melee too. The reason I'm focusing game sense on support fighters is because the best way to develop a competent game sense is to play support, and they are also the most reliant on this ability. Let's get started. Also, just as a side note, Slingshot, are you okay? Do you need help? I don't know what was happening there. Now, out of all the fighters in the game, Boombox is easily the least I've played of the 15, so I'm going to need to refer to some outside sources. Luckily, wonderful people in my tanks video have given me some insight into Boombox's playstyle, so I'll be referring to those comments here, and thank you to all of these people for the tips. One of the most important moves to be thinking about whilst evaluating the situation is Boombox's E-move. His E-move allows you to push people back and block most incoming projectiles. Some questions you should be asking yourself are, how many ranged fighters are there? Where's the team being shot from? Who could use the most protection right now? Where are any nearby areas I could throw people into the void? Boombox tends to perform poorly when surrounded by two or more people at once, so you should be constantly keeping track of where the rest of your teammates are and be keeping in mind what enemy fighters are the most vulnerable to you, such as Slingshot. Now, although Boombox doesn't have any healing abilities other than his ult, and he plays more towards the front lines, he's still a support character, and you should be treating him that way. Medkit is a character that is just completely useless if you don't have any game sense. One of the most important things to take advantage of is, I need healing pings. Sure, they might get annoying if you don't have chat pings disabled, but they're really useful in making sure everyone is at an adequate amount of health. Make sure that you're 1, listening to these pings, unless they're clearly about to die and you can't do anything about it, and 2, pressing C when you're low whenever you're playing any character. It's super helpful, and it's difficult to get my attention in the heat of battle when I'm focused on headshots. Make sure you can gauge where the rest of your teammates are so that you can prevent being targeted and have an open and easy escape with your Q move if needed. Stop trying to headshot whimsical little bastards like Coil and Slingshot and focus on slow tanks such as Banhammer and Katana as headshot fuel. Really, it's about making sure your priorities are set straight and that you're balancing your headshot focus and direct healing focus. I also want to talk about Medkit's ult, as it's probably the most dependent on evaluating the situation. Don't just use it when it's ready to use it when your team has had multiple deaths in a short period of time, when your team's all low and in a sticky situation. As subspace, you need to be finding the crowd and focusing on the crowd. I've seen lots of subspace players trying to save their low health teammate being chased by a character like Coil when in the end, they aren't actually doing anything. You are going to be getting the absolute maximum amount of potential where the bulk of the people are, especially when negating tank's shield regeneration. When playing subspace, being targeted shouldn't be much of an issue unless you're extremely low. Your E-move puts you miles away and easily disorientates anyone targeting you, causing them to lose interest pretty quickly. Just don't get distracted for too long and get right back to targeting the crowd. You should be evaluating when to use your ult very carefully. You should be trying to figure out when the most people are going to be in the same place and abusing the structure of certain maps such as Teapot Observatory or Roblox HQ. Now, a bind stack playing confidently can make or break the game. It's important to evaluate which characters are going to be doing the most unconditional damage on the team. Characters like Banhammer, Katana, Hyper Laser, and Subspace are probably going to be your best picks for getting seeds using your Q move. Make sure you're taking advantage of the map when placing seeds and putting them in areas that are close but not going to be easily destroyed by the chaos. Targeting tanks and low health fighters is going to get you a smooth income of seeds and will allow you to keep your teammates in good health throughout the round. Her ult is going to be most useful when your teammates are grouped together, so try to use it on the conquer point closer to your spawn side. On top of that, make sure your teammates are actually alive to be supported in the first place, or else it might not end up doing all that much. Now, I've already talked about Coil quite a bit in my How to Coil guide, so if you want a full rundown, I'd take a look at that video. However, there are still many things to be talked about when it comes to game sense. The most important is constantly updating who you're tethered to. You need to be keeping in mind how much health each fighter has in order to evaluate when you're going to finish filling up their bar and then switch to the next person. If everyone seems to be adequate health, tether speed to a tank or someone like Sword to give them a boost. Just make sure tethering is a mental forethought, because in a normal game, that priority is going to be switching constantly and requires endless attention. And that's going to be it for this week's video though. I hope I was able to help plenty, and of course, stay tuned.